guys, it's Emma and I'm back today for you with another video. And today we're doing my June monthly wrap up, okay? I feel like a celebration is in order, okay? Because I read 14 books this month and none of them were DNFs. I know. I'm so proud of myself too. In fact, that's why it's not every month. It's honestly not every day that I don't battle with DNFing a book, okay? That's just how I roll. And this month, I did not read any books that bored me so much to oblivion that I wanted to chuck them into oblivion. In this video, I'm just gonna be drinking my wine and talking to you guys about the 14 books that I read. So before we start, I would like to ask you guys to go down in the description box to look at the links that I have there pertaining to stuff that's going around in the world right now. And also down in the comment section below, let me know whether or not you've read any of these books, whether you agree with any of the stuff that I say about these books, and you know, so on and so forth. With that being said, grab your drink, alcoholic or non, and let's get right on into it. The first book that I read for the month of June was Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is about a tennis player named Carrie Soto who retired with the most amount of Grand Slams that a single person has won in the history of tennis. And she has come out of retirement because someone is beating her records by the minute. I gave it 5 stars, all right? I absolutely adored this book. I annotated it. There's this whole thing of Carrie's nickname that her dad calls her being Achilles. Because her dad thinks that she will be the greatest tennis player of all time, the greatest of the tennis players. And Achilles was the greatest of the Greeks. So there's like this whole parallel going on between Carrie and Achilles, and it was just really, really cool. Especially because the Iliad's like my favorite book. So I don't know what the hell y'all expected. All right. Also, this book was just really nostalgic for me because I have a lot of family members that played tennis. And so it was just really, really nice to be dunked back into that world of tennis rankings and like forehands and backhands. The relationship between Carrie and her dad was something that was really heartwarming and also heartbreaking at the same time to follow. And honestly, right now, Taylor Jenkins Reid has 2 for 2 over my head. The next book that I read in June was The World Cannot Give by Isabella Burton. This was like supposed to be a gothic book. And I'm trying to get more into gothic literature. Our main character, Laura, is going to this like really prestigious like university that her literary idol used to go to and like based his masterpiece on, and she is Delulu. While she's at this school, she falls into this kind of, again, idolization of this choir group that, again, was mentioned in like her literary idol's masterpiece. So she falls into this kind of obsession with the choir and the choir's leader named Virginia, and everything kind of spirals from there. I gave this 3 stars. When I finished it, I remember feeling just very conflicted about it because like I knew what I liked and what I didn't like, but I didn't know how to say it. I liked how the idolization that Laura places onto Virginia and her literary idol is like fleshed out in this book. I really enjoyed that. I liked some of the later things that happened in this book, including Virginia's arc, which if you know, you know. I just felt that like pretty much all the characters in here other than Laura and maybe Virginia, were just so flat. And then also I just felt like it was way too long. It was way too drawn out. I would say it's interesting. It's kind of got like this hive mind-ish culty type of thing with the choir, and I always enjoy that. The next book that I read for June was Mermaid Saga Volume 2. This is a duology that follows Yuta and Mana, who are 2 people that have eaten mermaid flesh. And in this world, eating mermaid flesh gives you immortality, or it will turn you into a horrible monster. It really is just heads or tails with the whole thing. And so this duology is basically about Yuta and Mana going through time, essentially, trying to find other people like them and trying to find a way to turn themselves back into humans. I gave this 3 stars. I definitely like the first volume a lot better. This one was okay. I liked it enough. The only thing that really made me lose interest in it was just how much more animal death there was. Just the amount of it compared to the first volume was so just like It felt very jarring because it was just so much more. It's definitely an interesting concept on mermaids, which I do kind of wish that we saw more of the actual mermaids instead of just the humans trying to get to mermaid flesh, you know what I mean? The next book that I read for the month of June was Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado. This is like a collection of short stories based on like women's experiences and their autonomy. I gave this 2 stars, and I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't like it as much as everybody else is seeming to. I loved 2 stories in here. I loved 8 Bites for how it dealt with eating disorders, and I also really liked The Husband Stitch. Both of them delved into the horror genre, and I don't know, I just loved how both of them were handled. Unfortunately, the others, I felt the main problem was that the ideas were really solid and I was on board with the ideas. It's just the execution of them I felt was too strained. I was having trouble keeping up. So it's probably just me and like, you know, the fact that it like pretty much all of them flew over my head, which is completely viable. The next book I read for a vlog that I'm currently doing where this video doesn't end until I find a 5-star. And I'm doing it specifically with new releases. And the first book that I read for that vlog and the next book that I read for June was Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This book is about 2 friends, Juniper and Athena. They're both authors. They both published books, but they've both had very different careers. Athena has had a blossoming career, 6-figure book deals, and is about to have a Netflix deal for an adaptation. Meanwhile, Juniper hasn't really seen any money. When Athena suddenly dies, Juniper decides to take her work and essentially dress in yellowface because Athena was Chinese and Juniper is white. So Juniper decides to, you know, change her name and change her author profile picture to be like more ethnically ambiguous. And she essentially goes through this book stealing Athena's work and trying to justify it as her own. This book, first of all, I gave it 3 stars, all right? My main problem with it is that it's supposed to be satirical. I felt that the satire was too heavy-handed. It wasn't leaving enough room for readers to read in between the lines and be like, okay, you know, this is satire, instead of the author being like, this is satire, if that makes sense. But other than that, I loved the writing in this. It was so fast. It was so fascinating, honestly. It was like watching a burning car crash, all right? It was like so horrible, like yet you can't look away from it. How Juniper is able to like justify everything to herself and make herself seem so self-righteous, and then to watch everything crumble around her and like the book Twitter discourse. I personally found all of that to be incredibly entertaining. Not to mention, I just think it's really clever how the jacket is yellow and then the cover is white. I thought that was really clever. I loved that. I don't know who was in charge of that, but whoever was needs a raise. I thought it was fun. I thought it was engaging. I thought it was really entertaining. It's just I was a little disappointed by the fact that it wasn't another 5-star. The next book that I read for June was also the next book that I read for that vlog. Woo! And that is Maeve Fly by C.J. Leede. This book is about Maeve Fly, who by day works at Disneyland, but we don't call it Disneyland, and by night roams the Sunset Strip, basically idolizing her misanthropic literary heroes. And then one day she meets her best friend's brother. And he unlocks a whole different world for her. Maeve is a serial killer, by the way. I gave this 1 star. All right, it's no question that I really did not enjoy this book. This book says, and I quote, "Untethered, Maeve ditches her discontented act and tries on a new persona. A bolder, bloodier one inspired by the pages of American Psycho." The main reason why I was so angry about this book was because I was under the impression that Maeve was going to be her own type of Patrick Bateman. But instead, she became an extension of him and even mimicked the stuff that he did in American Psycho like it was a damn manual, all right? She lost all of her agency. Her agency went out the window along with the curtains. It honestly felt like in the second half, after American Psycho was introduced, that this book needed American Psycho to stand. in its second half. This book also just had this weird war between two tones, between it being cartoonish and being disturbing, which, to be fair, I could have missed it being a juxtaposition, but last time I checked, juxtapositions worked like this and not this. All right, so the two tones in here were very jarring for me to read. I liked the writing in here, I'm not gonna lie. I'll have a rant review coming out for this book in a little bit, but there's one quote in here that completely made a whole part of Maeve's character null and void, which, what are we doing here? The cover schmacks. The cover's beautiful, we're not gonna lie on that factor, all right? But the rest of it, cheers. So the next book that I read for June was Anaconda by Jamila Jasper. It's a why choose romance with a female main character, and her name is Madison, and she goes to this palace in order to document this royal wedding because she's a journalist. And she ends up in this fling, or in this relationship with these three princes. Look, technically this is not a good book. I'm gonna be real with you right now, okay? I read this one, and then it's 2 sequels, and I'm on the 4th one now, all right? It's damn entertaining. I don't care, all right? I love why choose romances. It's just entertaining, okay? I gave Anaconda 2 stars, all right? I thought the plot was lacking. It's really mostly just smut. There really wasn't much engagement between the characters other than for like sex, which, I mean, shoot, for the book that it is, what are you gonna do about it? But just the fact that this woman trusts these 3 random guys that claim they're princes, and like after one day I was like, word girl, you gotta do what the plot tells you, you know what I mean? The next book that I read for June was Mostly Dead Things by Kristen Arnett, and I need to finish my glass for this one. Mostly Dead Things is about Miss Jessalyn, who has to essentially take up her father's taxidermy business when he commits suicide. Her brother is dealing with the loss of his wife, who literally dipped out on their marriage just off the face of the earth. And Jessa is also dealing with that as well, because her brother's wife, aka Jessalyn's sister-in-law, Bryn, was also the only woman that Jessa's ever loved. The tea! I gave this bitch 1 star. I'm so sorry. This book just made me so fed up. The incest going on, I don't care, all right? You're cheating with your sister-in-law on your brother. First of all, do you not find it a little bit strange that you're sleeping with the woman that's been sleeping with your blood brother? Is that not weird at all to you? Second of all, does it not anger you a little bit that your brother's getting cheated on? And third of all, does it not make it a little, again, weird for you that you are enabling the cheating on your brother? I don't care if y'all aren't related by blood. She's your sister-in-law. She's your sister by marriage. You're supposed to see her as your sister. There's gonna be a rant review for this one as well with Maeve Fly, so keep out for that. But no, there's also just a lot of animal death in here for seemingly no reason. Like at one point, like in the latter half of the book, they just start killing random live animals in order to stitch them up again because they're quote unquote fresh. What the hell? And there's also this thing where like they use dead animal parts to make sculptures. Even the taxidermying processes that we get, because don't get me wrong, we get to see the taxidermying process step by step, especially the gory details, but the other details of the steps, we might as well not even be able to see what they are, all right? Because the gore of animal death in this book is highlighted over and over and over again. And for whatever reason, I could not tell you with a gun to my head. The next 2 books that I read were the sequels to Anaconda. Python is probably the highest rated for me out of all of them. This one I gave 3 stars. I liked it enough. I thought there was a better mixture of smut and plot and like character development, so that's all I'm really gonna say about that. And then Mamba, same thing as Anaconda. Mamba was 2 stars for me. I wish there were more, I guess, just intimacy scenes between them all instead of just straight smut scenes, because then it's just like, do they really actually care about her? Don't get me wrong, it was still entertaining as hell. It's just, I think I would have preferred more than the smut. So the next book that I read for June was The Seven Moons of Maali Almeida by Shehan Karunatilaka. This is about Maali Almeida, our titular main character, and he has been killed. And he is given 7 days to essentially right all of his wrongs and get together whatever he needs to get together before he can move on. And by that, I mean essentially getting his photographs out into the public. Photographs that could rock the entire Sri Lankan government because he was a war photographer. I gave this book 4 stars. I absolutely loved it. This reminded me so much of 2 different books. If you guys have read 10 Minutes and 38 Seconds in this Strange World by Elif Shafak or Lincoln in the Bardo by George Saunders, I think you guys would really like this. There's a macabre and also a comedic juxtaposition of death and also looking at it with some sort of, you know, laugh to it, because what else are you going to do about it? The history also in here is really, really interesting. I admittedly really didn't know anything about Sri Lankan history, let alone from the 80s and 90s. While it was a little dense to read in the beginning, just plainly because of how much history is jam-packed into this, I think it's a really educational read, and it's really, really stimulating and interesting just of how it's integrated in with the rest of the plot. There's just so much in this one book used at the same time that I honestly couldn't put it down. Like I said, if you liked those 2 books that I thought it reminded me of, but also read Scarf Girl, if you read that in middle school like me, definitely pick this up. Okay, this next book that I read was Games with the Orc by Kathryn Moon. All right, this is a monster romance about this girl named Sunny who just got out of a really long-term relationship, and she wants to know whether or not her fantasies are actually, you know, something that she wants. So she signs up for this like program where she can go to a secluded place with a sex worker of her choosing and have these fantasies played out. And she chooses an orc sex worker by the name of Kilar. And, you know, they have their little tumble in the sheets. And it was so damn good. I gave this bitch 5 stars. It's not even funny. I'm under the impression that now anything that Kathryn Moon writes, I'm going to adore. I loved the relationship between Kilar and Sunny and how, you know, it started out as this really hot and intense relationship between the 2 of them. When they eventually fell for one another and they came to terms with one another's feelings, that there was, you know, kind of a, okay, let's do this over and try this from a slower perspective and really get to know one another. I loved that aspect of it. It was steamy. It was also really intimate and just sweet. And I loved these 2. This book had me kicking my feet and giggling. Like, I was ready to run laps, and I don't run laps. I don't run. So the next book that I read for June was American Royalty by Tracy Livesey. This is a romance book about Danny and Jameson. Danny is an American rapper who is honestly sick of people dictating how she shoots her music videos, how she dresses, how she should be perceived, and she wants to be able to run her own image, to be able to take care of herself. And then Jameson over here is an English prince that doesn't want to be in the spotlight. Jameson is charged with overseeing the celebration of his late grandfather's life through a celebratory concert. And he gets Danny to come and perform, and a romance starts between the 2 of them. I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was fun. I thought it was fast. I thought it was super steamy. The only thing that I wished was a little bit better between the 2 of them was their, like, intimacy. I would have liked to see some more, I guess, like emotional depth between the 2 of them instead of, you know, 85% smut and then 15% intimacy and them getting to know one another, and then that 15% being treated as if it was really 50 and the whole thing was really 50-50, physical and emotional, which it really wasn't. Danny was a breath of fresh air, all right, to read about. She was great, she was funny, she was independent, and she didn't take any shit. This was so much fun to read, okay? I need the sequel right now. Everybody May I Have Your Attention. Cheers for the last book that I read this month that was not a DNF. And that book would be, everybody, The Wishing Game by Meg Shaffer. This book is about a children's author who has not written a new book in the beloved Clock Island children's series in years. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, he announces that, hey, he's gonna actually write a new book in the series, but there's only gonna be one copy. And he's going to invite people to come and try and win the copy. It will be worth a lot of money. And Lucy Hart, our main character, knows that. And she really needs the money because she wants to be able to adopt a little boy in her class named Christopher, and she does not have the living conditions in order to support him. So she is invited to the island, and so she tries to win the game and win the book, and therefore be able to have a chance to adopt Christopher. I gave this 3 stars. This book was also one that I read for, this video doesn't end until I find a 5-star book. And I was liking it in the first half.
Yeah, they had us the first half, I'm not gonna lie.
It was reminding me so much of like Matilda and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which were 2 of my favorite childhood movies and still are. So I was adoring just how much whimsy there was in this book. And then it kept going, and then, you know, its problems started rearing their heads more and more. For example, I had to keep reminding myself that this was adult and not YA, because like it reads like YA until all of a sudden it's like child death, and it's like, oh, it was definitely something that was really jarring to read. And then the romance. There's a romance in here between Lucy and Hugo. Hugo is the illustrator for all of the books. They meet when she's 13 and he's 21, which is interesting. It's an interesting choice.
But that was a choice.
Then, you know, they re-meet when Lucy is invited back to the island for the contest, and he says something along the lines of, oh yeah, she's grown up nicely. Why? 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 Yeah, that was interesting. And then I was waiting so much for like it to actually be Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and for the games to be there. But the games, like whenever we got them, like the games or the riddles or the challenges were so short or like so rushed. If you like Matilda and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, if you like whimsical stuff, this most definitely might be up your alley. Just there are a lot of technical things in here where it's like, why did we do this? So you guys, that was my June monthly wrap-up. I hope that you guys had a good reading month like me, and I hope that we all have a good reading month or even a better reading month next month. With that, I am probably going to finish this wine glass. And yeah, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed. I hope that you will continue to look out for more stuff on my channel because I do have some stuff coming. I hope that you guys are staying safe. And lastly, I hope that you guys have a good rest of your day. Goodbye.